Hello, namaskar, and welcome to my pod. Welcome to the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. So the news that Prime Minister Modi will be meeting President Zelensky next month, I think it is on the 24th of August next month, and that also on the National Day of Ukraine, has surprised everyone. In fact, I would say has shocked many people all across the world. If and when the visit happens, and I'm sure it will happen, it's going to be a headline grabbing event all over the world. All the major players in world capitals are very closely going to watch this particular visit. The visit, of course, is going to have a huge impact on India's international standing all over the world, and I predict it will also have an impact on domestic politics in India. But that is not the real pertinent issue which I want to discuss today in my podcast. I'll of course allude to that a little later in the podcast. The main issue which I want to discuss in this podcast is this visit of Prime Minister Modi taking place under US pressure? Is the United States pressurizing India, or rather Prime Minister Modi, to go and meet Zelensky in Ukraine? Is that even a possibility? Is that even something we should be thinking or contemplating about? I will try and answer that particular question. But know this. Now, let me phrase it in this way. Let me say, maybe ask a couple of questions, and then I will probably try and give those answers a little later. That is it a possibility now that because of this visit, that there is some kind of a breakthrough which is possible in the Russia-Ukraine war? Is there some kind of an idea, some kind of a plan which is in Mr. Modi's mind that he's going to Ukraine to meet President Zelensky? And the other question which I am putting up is that does this visit send multiple messages to different powers? Of course, messages to America, messages to the European Union, to even China. And does it even send a message domestically to the Prime Minister's political opponents? I'm going to answer that particular question also. But before I do all that, I would urge all of you to, of course, subscribe to my channel, to the CAA show. You can see that red dot on your screen. Press that red dot and you become a subscriber. Subscription is, of course, completely free. And I promise you that my podcasts are different with different ideas, and go in for my podcast. And of course, please do like the show also. Your likes are very much appreciated. So go ahead and like the show also. Now, let's start right from the beginning and let's ask the most pertinent question in this entire debate. That is this visit taking place under US pressure? Now, let's try and understand the position of the United States in this entire matter. The fact of the matter is that the United States is not particularly very happy with some recent events vis-a-vis India, especially the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Moscow. All those images of Prime Minister hugging President Putin and President Putin personally driving Prime Minister Modi in a cart all the way to his residence, and there again both of them chit-chatting as friends of old. All these images, and that also this entire visit was taking place on the very same day NATO leaders were meeting in Washington to discuss the future of the conflict. The United States, of course, is not very, very happy about all that, and they have made their displeasure public. They have not just behind closed doors, they have voiced their concerns. They have shown their displeasure at the visit. There have been a lot of statements coming from the US ambassador to India, from Jake Sullivan. But the good news is that only yesterday, Foreign Minister Jaishankar met Anthony Blinken, and the meeting actually went off pretty well. They met very warmly. There was even talk of a steady growth of Indo-US ties, which really means that not too much damage has happened to the Indo-US relation despite all the talk. And of course, this announcement of that the Prime Minister would be going to Ukraine would have certainly gladdened US hearts. It would have gladdened the Biden administration. It is still the Biden administration, by the way. It is not the Kamala Harris administration as yet. And So let's talk of this pressure point, that should we even take it seriously? And my short answer to that question is yes, we have to take it seriously. Our ties with Russia are, of course, very critical, are very important. Russia is a tried and tested friend, has always been there in our times of need, no question about that. But our ties with the US are also very important and significant. And in an earlier podcast, I had outlined various reasons for that, but very quickly, our trade, the US is our biggest trading partner. As I said, the slot keep changing between China and the US. Sometimes China is the number one or the US is the number one. That's fine. But it's a huge relationship. There's a very significant defense relationship. Some of the most advanced defense platforms, we are getting them from the United States. We have, of course, a flourishing, a thriving people-to-people connect between both the countries. No question about that. Now, if the US for some reason takes real umbrage at our relationship with Russia, if it feels we are going completely against their geopolitical interests, they can apply pressure, and the pressure could come in terms of sanctions. There could be sanctions against our companies. There could be sanctions against our political entities also from traveling to various countries. Those kind of sanctions can come into place. It's happened before, it can happen again. And by the way, there's a small news which I never made it to the front pages, but some minor Indian companies have already been sanctioned for their dealings in this Russia-Ukraine war. So sanctions could happen, the tech transfer could stop. Please remember that semiconductors are now a very huge, important, significant component in today's day and age. And a lot of the tech giants from the US are now collaborating with India in semiconductor production and in semiconductor factories being set up. So that collaboration is also going on. That could also come to an end. The defense platforms could be withdrawn, of course. And as I said, there is a fear that you could be ostracized. And even though Europe is going through bad times, we all know that, but still you could be ostracized not only in Europe but in North America. So that is a prospect which is not a prospect to relish. And it's all very well for some of our podcasters in our country to say, oh, the US can impose sanctions, we don't care, welcome sanctions and all that bravado. No, not really. We need the United States, no question about it. And therefore, this pressure has to be kept in mind. And I'm not for a moment even suggesting that it is because of the US pressure Prime Minister Modi is going there. We still don't know the exact reasons. But I'm just outlining to you the entire gamut of US pressure. If it were really to happen, how it could happen. And at the same time, as reciprocity demands, the US has to also understand our position vis-a-vis Russia, which we are trying to do. Now, let's try and understand more dimensions of the issue. Let's try and understand Zelensky's point of view. Then I will also come to Prime Minister Modi's point of view also, because there is something which is going on in both camps, and we have to understand why this visit is happening. President Zelensky, certainly at the moment, by all accounts and by independent accounts, you're not going to find this in the Western press, is under a lot of pressure. He is under a lot of pressure for two or three things. The first is that obviously there are now huge reverses which Ukraine is suffering on the battlefield. There is loss of both men and equipment. A lot of areas have been taken. The entire, I think, Luhansk, Donetsk area has completely been secured by Russia. They're moving towards Kharkiv. They are bombing, or rather they are sending missiles into Kiev and into Odessa at will. And there is nothing the Ukrainians can do to stop them. The Patriot defense systems are no longer there. Countries like Germany have cut their military aid in half. Of course, the UK and the Biden administration stands by Zelensky, but the Republicans are again split. There's a section of the Republicans in the US which is not very keen for this war to go on and on. They want to end this war. And Zelensky is definitely under pressure. And there are elements also in the European Union. Is not some monolithic, united bloc which is supporting Zelensky completely, not at all. There are a lot of countries, there are a lot of elements in the European Union which are not happy with this war. They want Zelensky to go in for peace negotiations. Certainly Viktor Orban of Hungary, as we know, and there are a lot of other elements also. So things are not really very rosy for Zelensky. And therefore, Zelensky needs probably a way out. He needs some kind of peace negotiations to start. And maybe this is where Prime Minister Modi now enters the picture. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi, of course, is unique in the sense that his popularity is, no Zelensky or anybody else or Biden or anybody else comes near his popularity. But the fact also is that Modi 3.0, there has been a bit of a dent in his popularity. He has lost, as we say, some market share, or rather some political share, some seats. And there have been certain reverses, which probably is also playing on his mind. There is a very reinforced kind of opposition now domestically. The visit is taking place in this backdrop. Maybe he has a point to prove. Maybe there is a breakthrough which he needs to see happening, which will enhance his image. So that's where Prime Minister Modi comes into this entire picture. Another very significant thing has happened on the Zelensky front, which we have to keep in mind, is that, and these reports somehow they came and they were never completely verified, that the military chief of Zelensky, that is a man called Alexander Sersky, he was actually contemplating surrender of the Ukrainian troops. And we all know the situation on the ground. Or if we don't know, then let me tell you that Ukrainians are being literally decimated on the battlefield by the Russians. They don't even have the manpower to fight against the Russians. And Sersky, it is believed to was contemplating surrender to bring the war to a halt and to start peace negotiations. So that is another backdrop of this entire thing which we have to keep in mind. Now, there are 2 or 3 possibilities which we have to keep in mind. Could or can this visit take place without us first having reassured the Russians, even before the Americans, that Prime Minister would be going to Ukraine? And I think not. I think the Russians probably would have been taken into confidence. They probably would be aware that the Prime Minister would be taking the visit. What probably is the purpose of the visit? I don't think so. There would be tenterhooks in Russia that why is Modi a friend and why is India? They are reaching out to the Ukrainians. I think there is something which is going on out there. Maybe there is talk that there could be some kind of a peace deal or whatever which is in the offering. There are no indications to that, because at the moment, at least on the facade, even though Russia once in a while will talk of negotiations and all that, but Zelensky refuses to even talk about negotiations. So the visit of Prime Minister Modi is, to say the least, a little enigmatic. But I can tell you one thing, and that I think is the conclusion which one will arrive from this entire visit. The Prime Minister would probably be taking the visit because there would be a convergence of interest along with, very strangely, President Zelensky when this visit happens. And I'll tell you what that convergence is going to be. Whether a peace deal is in the offing, whether there is an offer from the side of the Russians which the Prime Minister could be carrying, or whether it is a visit to reassure the Americans that, okay, we understand your concerns and we are being even-handed, and therefore we are visiting Ukraine, and therefore to placate the Americans. All that is fine. But my own reading in the entire matter is that probably the visit is taking place because it will be wonderful optics for both Prime Minister Modi and, of course, for President Zelensky. Actually, for President Zelensky, it might just help him to survive, literally to survive when the visit happens. Because this visit is definitely going to make international headlines, no question about it. If you remember that one famous line of Prime Minister Modi, that this is not a time for war, I mean, that has been resonating, and not only in India, but all over the world again and again and again in various fora, in various world forums. And therefore, if 2 or 3 such statements are made, Just imagine the optics are there, that is, they are made in Kiev. And imagine the entire scenario where the Prime Minister is hugging Zelensky, a guard of honor is given to him, and then he is welcomed like a long lost friend. They hold these intense talks, and then some statements are made, positive statements, probably towards ending the war. The optics of that are going to resonate all over the world. And in conclusion, I'm suggesting is that if nothing else, we don't know the inner details, inner workings, and I won't, like other podcasters, I will not even pretend, I know why Prime Minister Modi is going there, because honestly, none of us, nobody has an inkling why Prime Minister Modi is actually going to Ukraine. But my own guess estimate, as I call it, is that it will be tremendous optics. For President Zelensky, it will help him to survive, it will help him to negotiate, it will probably help him to start a negotiation with Russia. It will also be great optics for Prime Minister Modi, because right now, and I'll come back to the domestic situation now, Prime Minister Modi needs a huge win, both on the international stage and domestically. The win on the international stage, if he gets kudos from Western governments especially. I'm not too sure about Western media, because the Western media always plays this double role, and I'm not too sure how they will react to the visit. But assuming if the kudos come from all sides for Prime Minister Modi for this visit, and what will happen is that this visit will be used then to silence a lot of critics back home domestically, that here is a man who has the vision, who has the statesmanship, who has the breadth and the vision of a world leader. This is the kind of Prime Minister we have, and this is going to have a huge impact on 2 or 3 things. Number one, it will have a huge impact on the political opponents of Modi back home in India, especially the Congress party, that what is the Congress leader as compared to Prime Minister Modi. Those comparisons will be made. It will also maybe put a stop to the infighting within the BJP, which we, as you can see, is still, even that sputtering is still going on in Uttar Pradesh. It hasn't completely stopped. It will hopefully put an end to that, that here is this wonderful leader which we have, and therefore all the chief ministers, everybody has to unite under the people he has picked and chosen. And therefore, to my mind, it kills many birds with one stone. It placates America. It gives a lease of life, survival to Zelensky. It also brings the European Union on your side. Russia is also not going to be displeased, because at the end of the day, please remember, even though Russia is winning the war, but Russia is also winning, and at the same time it is losing the war. See, I have always maintained that the concerns of the Russians were very valid when this war started, but their invasion of Ukraine was wrong. It was, nobody can defend that, because you're invading a country, an independent country, and that was completely wrong. But having said that now, then it will also give Russia the way out to enter into a negotiation and start a process with Ukraine. And certainly it will silence a lot of critics of Prime Minister Modi back home, bring unity in the ranks of the BJP, and let's not forget one more important player on the world scene, and we'll send a message to that particular player also, and that is China. China, now it is appearing as if China probably has a vested interest that this war continues, because China can then have this special relationship with Russia. It doesn't allow Russia to look anywhere else. China, of course, thrives when the others are in conflict, and China would probably not like this war to stop, and therefore it would be sending a message to China also that, and the Chinese tried to enter the diplomatic fray of the Russia-Ukraine war. They miserably failed, as we know. And if India even to some extent succeeds in sending a positive message out of this visit, then it sends a message to China also that our diplomacy is far superior to their diplomacy. And therefore, in conclusion, I would say that this visit becomes important. I would say it's not critical, it's important. It is going to kill a number of birds at with one stone. I'm certainly not saying it's going to stop the war, it's like a major secret negotiation or some major fanciful idea in the works that Prime Minister could bring along Zelensky to Delhi and then maybe ask President Putin to come to Delhi and then he negotiates a peace deal between these two countries. That's a little in the realm of fantastic imagination. But one thing it will certainly do, it might just, as I say, ensure Zelensky's survival, the gratefulness of Ukraine. And Ukraine, by the way, has not been very particularly grateful to India in the past. There have been certain sore points with Ukraine, but it could start that new chapter with Ukraine. If nothing else, Ukraine will rethink of its relationship with Pakistan, because a lot of arms comes from Pakistan, they go to Ukraine, and therefore we could be sending a message there also. And above all, it will take Prime Minister's standing in the world to a different notch, to a different level altogether, which will of course have an impact for India in the international fora, but also will affect our domestic politics. So that I see those optics really as emerging from this visit, which will be of crucial significance. That would be the high point of the visit, more than any actual breakthrough, if you ask me. But again, let's wait and watch, and let's see how this visit goes. There's huge anticipation of this visit, and of course, in the CAA show, I will keep bringing you my analysis and all the finer points of the visit whenever, and which I'm sure it will happen next month. And so on this note, I come to the end of this particular podcast. I hope you really enjoyed it. Keep saying again and again, do subscribe to my show, press on the red button, become a subscriber, and of course then you become privy to some of the best podcasts in the business. And once again on the note, welcome to my pod. I take leave from you. Goodbye and cheers from my end.